and welcome to Munching with Michael. On today's episode, we're going to dive into a sourdough English muffin. So come along. So we're going to start with the mix. This time we're going to start with some of the wet ingredients, the sourdough starter, milk, honey. It's sticky. And salt. And with that, I'm going to whisk to make a slurry. Once everything is well combined, I add the flour. I then attach it to the stand mixer, and using the dough hook attachment, I'm just going to mix until combined. Now for English muffins, we do not want to establish a lot of gluten, so we're not going to actually knead this dough. We're just kind of bring it together until it forms one homogeneous mix. So if you don't have a stand mixer, you can definitely do this by hand. And if you are using a stand mixer, you can always scrape the sides as needed. So once it's together, I am then going to take out my favorite fermenting container and put it in the container for 8 hours without touching it. Put a lid on and let it sit. After the 8 to 9 hours, I heavily dust a baking sheet with cornmeal. Then I find the right size ring mold. If you don't have ring molds, you can always just use a cup, something around 3.5 inches. I then take out the dough. It's pretty sticky, so I'm going to dust my work surface as well as dust the actual dough. And then using a rolling pin, try to roll it out to about a 1/2 inch thick. You can see I'm using a tape measure. And then I punch out the muffins. Trying to be as efficient as possible. With the leftover dough, you can kind of gently form it into a shape. It won't look as pretty as your other muffins, but it will still work. And then once again, put those scraps together to punch out the last muffin. With this recipe, you should get about 18 muffins. I got 20, and I kind of regret it. I think I rolled it out a little bit too thin, but we'll see that later. So top each one with more cornmeal, and then we're going to put something over it just so it doesn't dry out, and we're going to proof it for 1 hour. After that hour, we are ready to bake. So you see the setup I have. I'm going to use my carbon steel pan, anything cast iron or carbon steel, something that doesn't stick. Stainless steel probably wouldn't work. You could probably use a non-stick pan, but it's going to get fairly hot. You also want a lid too. I'm going to turn it on like a 3.5 out of 10. And then once it's heated up, put on your muffins, thinking that they're going to expand a little bit. I'm only going to try to fit on 3, remembering to put on a lid. So each side is going to take about 3.5, maybe 3 minutes. Check and kind of get your groove down, but it should become pretty easy after you've done a couple batches. You can see they're nice and puffy. Put the lid back on for the other side. Once again, about 3, put the lid on. They puff up and flip them. And this is the last batch. Pretty hot, but you can see they've risen. Nice color on them. And I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. Like I said, they are a little thin. I think if I were to do them again, I'd try to only get 18 out of a batch, not 20. Well, I hope you had as much fun as I did today. Remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more adventures in food.